Today I am teaching, just like last week, I taught about solar and how solar doesn't really actually power anything, but it was the solar just collects the energy from the sun. It sends power down to the batteries. The batteries, once they are fully charged, then the batteries send power off to the trailer. And then you can run lights, refrigerators, your furnace. You can run certain things you can't, and certain things you can. The things you typically can run off of a battery are things that are very, very low voltage. So essentially think of it this way. If it has a plug and you plug it into an outlet at your house, you cannot run that off of a battery, because a battery is what we call 12 volts. So there's different voltages in the world. In the United States of America, there are really two main voltages, and it's 12 volt and 120 volt. So as you can imagine, 12 volt it's not that much power. These are batteries, right? So if you ever grabbed a little battery and put your tongue on it, it does a little tingly feeling to you. It's not a lot of voltage. Those are very low voltage batteries. RVs also have low voltage 12 volt batteries. Thomas Edison, back in the day when he was trying to light the nation, he was trying to light up cities completely running off of 12 volts. So he wanted to light cities, like lampposts throughout cities, running 12 volt systems. So what he had to do is create these massive battery banks every block and then put a generator on it to run lights throughout the city on 12 volt. Westinghouse and Tesla were like, that's ridiculous. 12 volts not enough current to power cities, right? So they had the war against who would control the grids, and Westinghouse and Tesla won in the end against Thomas Edison because they said we need to do 120 volt. Edison argued saying 120 volt is dangerous. You go in and stick your finger in a socket in your house or in a plug or receptacle, it's going to electrocute you, and it can be quite shocking, and it doesn't feel good. So a trailer, so you understand, anything like in your house that you plug into an outlet is 120 volts. So trailers have two different power systems. They have a 12 volt system and they have a 120 volt system. So you might be like, well, that doesn't make any sense. How do you run 120 volt on a trailer that has wheels that's driving down the road? Does 120 volt, doesn't it require like a power source? Don't you have to plug it in? Like there's a power plant that creates power and it comes out and powers your house off of wires into your house, right? So how would I run stuff in an outlet in my trailer? Well, the easy answer is you don't. You can't. You have to go to a campground. You have to grab a giant cord and plug your trailer into an outlet on the grid, and that will give you 120 volts. So you can watch TV, you can run your microwave, you can turn on your air conditioner, you can charge your laptop. That's generally what you need for 120 volt. And 12 volt, the 12 volt systems in a trailer, just like Thomas Edison was trying to create light in cities with 12 volt, there are things that run off of 12 volts. Generally, light bulbs. A lot of light bulbs. And nowadays you have 120 volt in your house, but like in your car, those little teeny light bulbs in your dome in your car, those are all 12 volt light bulbs. And so in most RVs, most of the lights in the RVs that you're going to see are going to be 12 volts. So those come off of the battery and you can run your lights off of the 12 volt. There's some really cool, unique appliances that are designed for the RV industry, like the furnaces, the fridges, water heaters, and those are actually 12 volt. They're operated, they're the igniters to light the flame, to operate the display. It's all 12 volt, works off of the batteries, but to get them going, there's usually propane. So the power will ignite it, propane will feed it. So you'll have gas on board, like those bottles, those propane bottles. Those will give you, your stove, your oven. It will also give you hot water, and it will also give you heat from the furnace. And that fan in the furnace that blows that hot air through you, that fan operates off of a battery. It's a 12 volt motor that operates off the battery, but the propane is what creates the heat and it blows into the trailer, right? So my entire life, essentially, every time I've gone camping until literally 5 years ago, if I wanted to watch a movie, if I wanted to turn on the microwave, if I wanted to run the air conditioner, I was either going to a campground and plugging in, or I had a generator that I would bring along with me, and I'd stick the generator out, fire it up, At night we want to watch a movie, fire up the generator, have a 100-foot extension cord into the woods so it's not so loud, and you watch a movie. And then as soon as your movie is done, you go and turn off the generator and you go to bed. Now, inverters have been around for a little while, but they're becoming a lot more popular in the industry. And all of our trailers, all of our off-road trailers, for the most part, have inverters. And this is a relatively new thing. 5 years ago, pretty much no trailers had inverters. Nowadays, our trailers, almost all of them have inverters. Now, what an inverter is. Okay, I've talked about a solar array in last week's episode. We talked about the solar charge controller. We talked about the batteries. Now, off of the batteries, if you can imagine, there's wires that are running to your lights. Now, there's a new wire that comes out and it runs into this thing called an inverter. And what an inverter is it takes your 12-volt battery power and it inverts it. It changes the power to 120-volt power, which is pretty cool. And typically, that inverter, you can wire it into the circuit breaker box. Back in the days, when we were dealing with, run-of-the-mill trailers, what a lot of times what we would do, we would install an inverter off the battery, and we would run one outlet into the trailer. And we'd say, if you turn on your inverter, you can plug in one thing into that outlet. And usually we'd put the inverter outlet somewhere by the TV, so you could run the TV off of the inverter. But we would say, hey, don't run it too long because you'll kill your batteries, because batteries for a long time have been pretty weak. Like, we're talking like run a TV for maybe 8 hours and your batteries are totally dead. But if you're running your water pump, your furnace, and your TV, you might only run it for a couple hours and you're toast, right? So it's kind of like, do it sparingly, watch a movie, but in the morning you might want to turn on a generator to charge your battery back up, right? This was before we were doing much solar. But nowadays you have inverters that are like, and those were like, the inverters we used to install were like teeny little 500 watt, 1,000 watt inverters just to run a TV. It's like nothing, right? You could run a coffee pot off a 1,000 watt inverter. Nowadays we're putting in 2,000, 3,000. Some people want 4,000 watt inverters, which is insane, right? Because an air conditioner is going to typically be a 2,000 watt. It will run at 2,000 watts. So you can get an inverter. And essentially what an inverter nowadays, all of our trailers, the inverters, the way they work is the inverter will actually go to every single outlet in the entire trailer. So when you turn on the inverter, every outlet in the trailer will fire up and will have power from the batteries, converting the 12-volt power into 120-volt power. So you can now run the microwave, you can run like a coffee pot, any outlet you can plug into, you can run power. Now, you got to be careful. Let me tell you, you got to be careful because it depends on the size of your battery bank. You got to keep this in mind. Like a Battle-Born battery is a pretty famous battery out there. Typically, a Battle-Born battery has 1,000, it's around 1,200 watts, one battery, right? So if you fire up the air conditioner, and if your single Battle-Born battery is 1,200 watts, and you turn on your inverter to turn on your air conditioning unit, that takes 2,000 watts. Well, if you can do the math, that means you got about 40 minutes max and you're dead. So you have to start thinking, well, if I want to run an air conditioner, gotta have a lot of batteries, right? One battery is not enough. A lot of people, I just saw a post recently where this guy was all mad. He says, this dealer told me that I could run my air conditioner for 6 to 8 hours, and I think he had 2 lithium batteries. It's like 2,400 watts. 2,400 watts, 2 batteries, right? 2,400 watts. Air conditioner takes 2,000 watts. That's an hour. 45 minutes, really, realistically, maybe an hour. It's ridiculous. He was misled. That is not true. Now, if you had, a massive solar array, a massive battery bank, hypothetically speaking, you could potentially run an air conditioner for a lot longer. AC is like I want to call it the unicorn of the RV industry. Right now, everybody wants to run an air conditioner, but the reality is, at this time, the technology is not quite there. It's not like a few years ago, every dealer you asked, even today, if you go and ask like a standard box dealer, can you run an air conditioner off grid or off of your batteries? Almost all of them will say, no, that's impossible, which is not impossible. We've run ACs for days, 2 days, 3 days, but we're dealing with not standard trailers, because most standard trailers are going to have 1 or 2 batteries. We're dealing with You know, a standard trailer that has 2 batteries, our battery bank that we have is equivalent to close to 20 to 30 batteries of a standard trailer. So we're talking, you know, 20 to 30 times the amount of power. And I'm telling you, you know, the AC, you can run it, but you got to be conservative with what you do. You can't just run it forever. So it is possible now, and it's really cool because here at ROA Off-Road, we are, I believe, cutting edge. I think we're doing things that nobody else is in the industry, and we're pushing things to the limit beyond anybody else. So if you want to get into a trailer that can run an air conditioner or run TVs and electronics, there's definitely not a place that you can get a trailer like the ones that we carry than anywhere else. And also not just that, but educate you and set proper expectations so you understand like what you can and can't do. So hey, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you learned something. If you have any questions, ask those questions in the comments below. Love to answer your questions. If you want to see a rant on a certain topic, or if you want to learn about something, feel free to say that in the comments section and we'd be happy to share something with you. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.